Hello, this is Bagel, Chilled Bagel. Today I'm going to go through some coffee vocabulary. Arabica. Arabica is a species of coffee trees. It's a species that produces a higher quality in coffee flavors as opposed to other kinds of coffee trees, such as Robusta. Actually, over 60% of the world's coffee are Arabica coffee trees. Usually, Arabica coffees are grown at a higher altitude, which contributes to its complexity and also the refined flavors of the coffee. Body. Body. Body is a word to describe and evaluate coffee. It's associated with the mouthfeel, the richness, the heaviness of the coffee. It's the sensation of the coffee lingering in your mouth. You can think of it as tasting milk. So a light body would be similar to a skim milk, while a whole milk would be considered a medium body. And then you have half and half, which is a heavy body. C. Cortado. When it comes to the letter C, I think most of you might think of cappuccino, but I wanted to introduce cortado, which is also a espresso-based drink. Cortado is a coffee drink that is comprised of equal amounts of espresso and steamed milk. For instance, 2 ounces of coffee is topped with 2 ounces of milk. Even though sometimes you might find it to be made with 1 part espresso and 2 part milk. It really depends on the cafe. It's a very espresso forward drink, while the milk helps dial down the acidity of the espresso and also highlights the sweetness. Another name for a cortado is a piccolo. Drip. Drip is a brewing method where hot water is poured over a bed of coffee grounds. As the water travels through the grounds, it extracts and brings out the soluble goodness and then results in a drinkable, tasty cup of coffee. Espresso. Espresso is the soul of many coffee beverages. It's made by forcing hot water that's pressurized through a puck of compressed coffee grounds. Because of the added pressure, it draws out and emulsifies the oils in the coffee grounds. And then it results in a very, very concentrated cup of coffee with a golden layer of emulsified oil on top of the espresso, which is called crema. We have finish. The finish of the coffee is the sensation right after you swallow the coffee. Sometimes coffee develops and changes after you swallow it. And coffee can start out being nutty with hints of spice and then morph in a very caramelly sweet finish. You can also describe the finish as the aftertaste of the coffee. G. Grind. Or more specifically, grind size. Grind or grind size refers to the particle size of the coffee. It's very important to getting the best tasting coffee, no matter what kind of brewing method you're using. Generally, the smaller the grind size, the easier it is to extract the coffee. But then it also means that it's going to be easier to extract the bitterness and the astringency of the coffee. Then the larger the grind size, it's actually not as easy or quick to extract the coffee, which means it might produce a very sour and weak end product. It's very crucial to find the correct grind size for the brewing method you're using. In general, espresso uses a very fine grind, while drip coffee uses a grind size that's somewhere in the middle. And then you have French press, which uses a coarse grind. High altitudes. Arabica coffee trees are grown at high altitudes, usually from 1,000 meters to 2,500 meters. Many specialty coffee roasters will put this information on their packaging. The higher the coffee tree grows, the more complex the flavor of the bean, and also the denser the bean. Because of the daily temperature variation, the variation is very large at high altitudes. The growth of the coffee cherries are stunted by the cold temperatures at night, which is a good thing because it allows more time for the cherries to develop, and that translates to more flavor complexity and a refined acidity and fruitiness that coffee lovers enjoy. I had a little trouble finding a word for I. Instant coffee. Instant coffee is actually invented before tea bags. It was invented around late 19th century, early to 20th century. Instant coffee is made by freeze drying coffee, and freeze drying is a process where the water is removed by freezing the coffee and then separating the coffee by turning it into water vapors. But unfortunately, the nuance, the complexity, and freshness is lost during the process for manufacturing instant coffee, which is why instant coffee will taste inferior to any fresh coffee. Jamaican Blue Mountain. Jamaican Blue Mountain is a very well known and very well loved single origin coffee from the Blue Mountain area in Jamaica. It is characterized by its rich and smooth mouthfeel and body, and it has a very light, refined, and warm acidity to it. Real Jamaican Blue Mountain is very rare and in high demand. If you want to try Blue Mountain coffee, the best place is Japan. Japan actually imports over 70% of all Jamaican Blue Mountain coffee. Kenya. Kenya is a well-known country that exports high-quality beans. You'll find a lot of specialty coffees that come from Kenya. Coffee beans from Kenya are often washed processed. So if you prefer lively citrus and fruity acidity in your coffee, Kenya is a very good choice. Latte. Latte. I'm sure this is a more familiar term. Latte is an espresso-based drink. It is usually topped with around 3 to 4 times as much milk compared to espresso. At specialty coffee shops, lattes are usually around 8 ounces, and it comprises of double espresso shots. Microfoam is created by steaming milk while simultaneously adding air into the milk. This is done with the steam wand. A properly steamed pitcher of milk with microfoam can be used for latte art, and it will taste sweet and have a very fine, fluffy mouthfeel to it. Nutty. Nutty or nuttiness can be used to describe coffee that smells or tastes like nuts. Think of hazelnuts, almonds, peanuts, and walnuts. It is a common characteristic for coffee from South America. Oil. Oil on coffee develops when the coffee beans are being roasted. Usually the darker the roast, the more coffee oil is on the bean. It's important to be mindful of coffee oil because the oils in the coffee also turns bad pretty quickly, so it will affect the taste of coffee. So if you're using a grinder for your coffee, it's important to clean it once in a while so that coffee oil is not building up and negatively impacting the taste of the coffee you grind through it. I've actually already done a video talking about the processing methods, focusing on honey processed coffees. Processing is what coffee cherries go through before they are ready for roasting. Processing methods for coffee cherries can be grouped into 3 categories. We have wet processing, which is washed processing. We have dry processing, such as natural or sun-dried processing. And then we have semi-dry processing. So that's like pulped natural and honey processing. Many things contribute towards a quality cup of coffee. The time from roasting, the time from grinding the coffee, the water quality, bean quality, and even the maintenance of the brewing equipment all affects the quality of the final cup. Ristretto is a short shot of espresso that's made with less water compared to a regular shot, but with the same amount of coffee grounds. By passing less water through the puck of coffee, it results in a more concentrated flavor with less dilution. So it's sweeter and more aromatic and flavorful compared to a regular espresso shot. Siphon. Siphon is a brewing method that kind of looks like a science experiment. It comprises of a water chamber that is heated up, forcing the water to rise and enter the upper chamber that contains the coffee grounds. When the siphon brewer is removed from the heat source, that creates a vacuum effect in the bottom chamber, and coffee is pulled back into the lower chamber. This method produces a very full and heavy-bodied cup of coffee. Temperature is very crucial for extracting what we want from coffee. Generally, we want to use a higher temperature for lighter roasts coffee, usually above 90 degrees, while we want to use a lower temperature for darker roast coffees, somewhere even down to 85 degrees Celsius. This is because of the structural difference between light roasts and dark roasts. You can think about roasting coffee like popping popcorn. The longer you heat up a kernel, the larger the kernel becomes and it eventually pops. Darker roasts are like popcorns, and lighter roast coffees are like the slightly puffed up kernels. The darker roast coffees are more porous and water can pass through and extract the coffee easier. And lighter roasts are less porous, so we need to leverage the higher water temperature to extract all the goodness we want from the coffee. Under extraction is when an insufficient amount of coffee is extracted. It results in a very unpleasant, sour, and weak and watery cup of coffee. Common causes for under extraction is too low of a water temperature, not enough brew time, coffee grounds are too coarse, and also not using enough water. The valve seal is the valve that allows gases to escape from the bag of roasted coffee. The valve prevents coffee bags from exploding because freshly roasted coffees releases gases like carbon dioxide after being roasted. This valve allows the coffee beans to degas, and it also is designed to not allow air to flow into the coffee bag. Winey is a term to describe coffee. It's a combination of sensory experiences similar to drinking red wine. It is a blend of the pleasant acidity and the smooth, rich body of the coffee. I'm going to cheat a little bit here. Chemex. Chemex is a glass pour-over hand-drip coffee maker invented in 1941 by a German inventor, Peter Schlubum. When you brew the coffee with the thicker filter paper, specially made to use with the Chemex, it produces a very clean and well-balanced cup of coffee. Yirgacheffe is a region in Ethiopia where coffee trees really thrive. It has the optimal climate, soil, elevation for producing a quality coffee product. It's one of the most popular areas and you can see it in many specialty coffee shops. Coffee from Yirgacheffe usually has a tea-like body, so it's very light, with delicate berry and floral notes. You can find Yirgacheffe usually as light roasts because that roast profile highlights the delicate flavors. Zesty is a word to describe the acidity of a coffee. Zesty notes are the aroma and flavors that are fresh and lively, that resembles fresh lemon, lime, orange, or even grapefruit zest. Thank you. So I hope you learned something from today's coffee glossary, A to Z. Please suggest some more coffee related vocabulary down in the comments, and if there are any vocabulary that you want me to go more in depth with, or different areas of coffee you want me to dive deeper into, feel free to leave that in the comments as well. Thank you so much.